Yes, good morning everyone. Yes, 10th February 2022, the Hindu newspaper. Let's see which are the important articles from today's the Hindu newspaper. Yes, look at the first page. First of all, we'll take overview of all these articles. We'll try to understand the context. Okay, so on first page, scientists set new record in fusion energy. Now this is important for our prelims examination. The fusion energy is going to be the future of, or we can say future source of clean energy, and the scientists are continuously working on finding the solution how we can have the controlled fusion reaction in the we can say laboratory, or we can say in a reactor. So now some of the scientists in UK, they have achieved the new milestone in creating the energy, heat energy from the fusion, we can say reactions. So the name here is Joint European Torus Facility near Oxford in UK. Okay, so this is going to be the boost for further research and development in the fusion energy production. Okay, so be aware about that, how this energy is produced. We will try to find out from science and technology perspective. Then on page number 5, yes, on bottom side you can see two important articles. ISRO to launch new Earth observation satellite 04 on PSLV C52 on 14th February. Okay, so this is going to be the first launch for ISRO this year. Then along with that, we will also try to find out the significance of this launch, the benefits of this particular satellite launch. Along with that, other news is there. INCOIS carries out coastal vulnerability assessment. Now from disaster management perspective, the vulnerability and risk mapping is very important component of disaster mitigation, okay, and disaster preparedness. So from that perspective, INCOIS has carried out this coastal vulnerability index and coastal vulnerability mapping. Okay, so from this we will be able to understand the impact of future sea level rise in our coastal areas. Along with that, the different types of, let's say, effects of such sea level rise and other impacts of, we can say, climate change and global warming. Okay, so from that aspect it is important. Disaster management GS3 perspective, mains examination. Now on editorial page, anger in diplomacy, the left hand side editorial, anger in diplomacy. The context of this particular article, it talks about recent diplomatic row that has happened because of some of the social media posts from we can say retailers of these MNCs, multinational companies in Pakistan. So they had some kind of messages giving the solidarity towards the Kashmiri people seeking Kashmir freedom. Okay, so this has led to some kind of, let's say, sharp reaction on social media by Indian citizens also, and the swift reaction by the government of India also, Ministry of External Affairs. That aspect is analyzed here from IR section. So article talks about there was no need of, let's say, having such sharp reaction by the Ministry of External Affairs. So we'll try to understand that what has happened, what was the issue, and we'll try to analyze the reactions or actions by the government of India there. Okay, so now moving on to next articles. Largely you can see that they are of political nature as the elections are going on. First phase voting today in those 5 states, assembly elections will happen. Okay, on page number 10, more women got maternity benefit. So here the reply by Minister of Women and Child Development in the Parliament talking about the beneficiaries of Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, this particular scheme that was launched by our Prime Minister in 2016. so as to provide some monetary benefits to those working in unorganized sector, those who do not enjoy the benefits of the government, we can say maternity benefit scheme. So for them this particular scheme is there for those women who may lose some kind of wage because of pregnancy, and to ensure the nutrition to them. So 5,000 amount is given in 3 installment after, we can say, satisfying some criteria, some conditions. We will try to find out about this particular scheme from prelims perspective. Now there is one news: India bans drone import to help domestic sector. Okay, so here this is, in this manner we are providing boost to this drone sector. We have seen in the union budget announcement how drone Shakti and the boost to the startups, especially for helping agriculture sector, this has been given by the government. Now the drone import is banned to help boost the domestic sector. So exceptions are given for research and development and defense imports, we can say. Now on page number 11, Quad ministers to set to meet in Australia. Okay, so our external affairs minister is going to Australia for participate in this meeting of Quad ministers. Along with that, there will be discussion on various topics so as to further the agenda that was set in last year's summit level meeting of the Quad leaders. Okay, along with that, while returning journey, our external affairs minister will also visit Philippines. Okay, recently there was, you know that BrahMos export deal from India to Philippines was done in the previous month. So that the significance you should be aware. Further, the outcome of this summit or meeting will be there in this particular week. So we will try to find out the outcome then later on. Okay, so these are the important articles. Let's go into details. Okay, so first, from men's perspective, anger in diplomacy. This particular article is having the context of recent social media outrage over the posts by some of the MNCs located their offices in Pakistan, multinational companies. Examples: some of the automakers like Hyundai, Kia Motors, KFC company, and pharma companies like Schwab. Okay, so these companies had given some, let's say, social media messages regarding the solidarity towards Pakistan, the Kashmir freedom. Okay, and there was outrage on the social media by Indian citizens, and there was swift reaction by government of India also. Okay, what was that reaction? Especially many of these MNCs belong to South Korea. So Indian government summoned the South Korean diplomat in India. Okay, and there was apology by the diplomat, South Korean government, we can say, on behalf of these MNCs or their message on the social media. Okay, so such kind of, let's say, government reaction was sought, and this was the public apology. It was not, let's say, directly to the government, rather it was public apology. So this was the outcome of this reaction. Now we need to analyze such kind of, let's say, reaction by the government in such small controversies, how a Ministry of External Affairs has been involved, even in the past. If you are aware, during the farmers' protests, some of the noted international artists, or let's say the actors, singers, they were also involved in the social media post. If you remember, Rihanna, so she had given her view on the farmers' protest, and Ministry of External Affairs intervened and reacted in a very strong manner, that it is the domestic issue and those who are reacting to this issue. It is government of India rejects such kind of views. ये सारी चीज़ें वहाँ पे भी हुई थी. right? So let's understand and analyze this reaction that Ministry of External Affairs is giving in such kind of petty issues. Yes, government must also consider big picture of how its actions are viewed in the rest of the world. You should understand that the large country or the developed countries in the West in general do not react to such small issues, especially US if we are talking. So they promote the liberal views in general, and yes, they give the view, but they simply let's say release the public statement of rejection okay, soft stand they give, and they simply give the government stand here that the government rejects such kind of views by, we can say, these actors. Fine. So this how this government of India reaction will be viewed in the rest of the world, this is going to be seen in the near future. Already the Western countries, European countries, US, they criticize over the human rights violations and the freedom of speech and expression, freedom of media. And if suppose the views of the let's say people, private sector is muzzled in this manner and sought to give the public apology, then this is going to be the question. Second, India's claims over Jammu and Kashmir are strong and widely acknowledged over the world and not so fragile. Such kind of claims are not fragile, they are strong. That few social media posts that appeared only in Pakistan can dent in any way. So simply we should understand that these few social media posts do not dent India's claim over, we can say, Jammu and Kashmir. Simply we should understand this. Then holding foreign governments in democratic countries to account for actions of local distributors in their private companies or of their private companies could have unforeseen seen repercussions. How? Simply we should understand that if South Korean government is asked to apologize or having such kind of pressure to apologize, so that means in future the South Korean government may adopt, let's say, detrimental economic policies for investment in India by these private companies. There can be, we can say, flight of FDI, FII from South Korea. The companies may not invest in India because the government adopts such kind of policies. Okay, so these kind of unforeseen repercussions may happen and we do not know about this. Now, whether the foreign ministry's resources are better spent in the furthering India's interest than expanding diplomatic capital on short-lived controversies. So whether our foreign external affairs ministries or foreign resources, so they are being spent on the appropriate or nationally important matters or such kind of short-lived controversies. So we need to understand that whether we are prioritizing spending of these resources on important matters. This should be also need to be questioned to the government here. Okay, so this is the analysis we should understand over the recent controversy. The past example you should be aware about the farmers' protest. Okay, so IR section, this is the discussion. Next, Quad ministers set to meet in Australia. The brief background is also given in this article. Let's talk about this. Okay, so External Affairs Minister of India will begin a visit to Australia and attend the meeting of foreign ministers of Quad grouping, India, Australia, US, Japan, 4, we can say, democracies located across Indo-Pacific, which are expected to discuss cooperation on various matters related to technology, regional security issues, including related to China. Okay, so you should be also aware that in which areas the Quad countries are cooperating. Last year itself there was question in mains examination talking about the Quad cooperation. Okay, now what kind of, let's say, developments have happened in last 1 year, you should be also aware about that. In September 2021, the 4 leaders met in Washington for the first time. Summit level meeting has happened of the leaders. Then laid out the ambitious agenda for the grouping. 4 countries pledged to donate more than 1.2 billion COVID-19 vaccine doses to the and produce at least 1 billion doses by the end of 2022. Then in March 2021, the 4 countries also set up new critical and emerging technologies group focusing on 5G, technological or technical standards and technology supply chains. Also in the works in joint initiative to identify vulnerabilities and bolster supply chain security for semiconductors. So 5G technology, semiconductors and supply chain resilience. So in that matter they have set up this particular working groups, okay, and these working groups are further, let's say, working on the areas of cooperation. In near future we can expect the concrete outcome on this. Okay, so these are the areas that we are working in the Quad grouping, and we should understand that Quad grouping is of political and economic nature, and it is not largely, simply we should understand the countries do not accept that this is military grouping, but indirectly these countries are also having the strategic and defense aspect. For example, the Malabar exercise, naval exercise that is carried out, all 4 members are the part of now that Malabar exercise. Okay, so that's why we should understand that although directly they are saying that it is not military grouping or defense grouping, indirectly they have some kind of strategic interests. Okay, we'll further discuss the outcome of this meeting, Quad meeting. INCOIS carries out coastal vulnerability assessment. Okay, this INCOIS institute which works, Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services. This is the important institute which works on carrying out ocean related research. Okay, ocean related research. This has now carried out the coastal vulnerability assessment for entire Indian coast at the states level to bring out the atlas to prepare coastal vulnerability index. Coastal vulnerability index. Okay, along with that we should understand this coastal vulnerability index uses the relative risk that physical changes will occur as sea level rise are quantified based on the parameters like tidal ranges, wave height, coastal slope, coastal elevation, shoreline change rate, geomorphology of the coastal areas, historical rate of relative sea level change. Okay, and also it has carried out multi-hazard vulnerability mapping of the coastal areas. This is part of disaster management. Okay, vulnerability and risk mapping, it is important component of disaster risk mitigation or disaster risk reduction, DRR. This has been asked in the mains examination, DRR, and the present government along with the international agenda that we have, Sendai framework, that also focuses on disaster risk reduction. Okay, and important component of this DRR is multi-hazard vulnerability mapping. Okay, so national disaster risk, we can say, national disaster management plan that we have. Okay, so that management plan also talks about this multi-hazard vulnerability mapping. Okay, so this is specifically for coastal areas. Specifically for coastal areas. How to use it in your mains examination? Suppose there is question regarding the impact of climate change on the coastal areas or impact of sea level rise on the coastal areas. Of course, you should mention in the way forward in the mitigation part this particular exercise carried out by INCOIS. So note it down and directly write in your answer this particular development. Next, more women got maternity benefit. So Union Minister of Women and Child, so she was actually replying one question in the parliament and said that the beneficiaries who enrolled for the maternity benefit program, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, exceeded the government target of 51.7 lakh per year. Okay, so about this scheme, this was announced in 2016. First thing you should remember, provide the benefit of 5,000 rupees in 3 installment to the women for her first child, first living child, upon meeting certain criterias, okay, or certain conditions like during the pregnancy she must we can say enroll the pregnancy. Along with that, the checkup should be done, from periodic checkup should be done, and after pregnancy also the nutritional aspect should be considered. So now this is meant for partial compensation for loss of wage during the pregnancy, so that she can get proper nutrition. Okay, so it is for wage loss during the pregnancy, and specifically it is for those women who are not employed by the central and state government or public sector undertaking and don't receive similar benefits under any law. So government employees receive the benefits specifically under maternity benefit program of the government. But those working outside the government, we can say machinery, those working especially in unorganized sector, so they can receive these benefits. So along with that, it is clubbed with Janani Suraksha Yojana scheme. Janani Suraksha, as the name suggests, we need to protect the mother. So it is for providing 1,000 rupees for institutional births, so that altogether the mothers will get 6,000 maternity benefit. 1,000 under Janani Suraksha Yojana for institutional birth and 5,000 under Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana for overall pregnancy and during the lactating period also. Okay, so total 6,000 benefit in the maternity benefit. This can be asked in the prelims examination. Now, scientists set new record in fusion energy. Okay, so fusion energy. So let me tell you the basics. What we have at present in the nuclear power plants, the nuclear reactors, so that is fission reaction. That is fission reaction. That is one atom of the element is broken into two different we can say atoms, and simply we should understand that this is fission reaction. Okay, and that can be controlled. We do have such kind of technology at present. But the fusion reaction which takes place on the surface of the sun. Okay, so hydrogen atoms are fusing with each other to form the helium there on the surface of sun. So that reaction which is producing a substantially larger energy compared to fission reaction. So that experiments are going on to carry out such kind of controlled fusion reaction in different parts of the world. And now one of the laboratory or the group of scientists in UK, they have further we can say that research in that particular sector. Like scientists in UK said they have achieved new milestone in producing nuclear fusion energy, imitating the way energy produced in the sun. The name of the facility, Joint European Torus Facility near Oxford. Okay, so they have produced or generated 59 megajoules of sustained energy during the experiment in December, more than their earlier we can say record. So basics, a kilogram of fusion fuel contains about 10 million times as much energy as a kilogram of coal or oil or gas, natural gas. So you can understand the nature of energy, the amount of energy that we can produce with the help of fusion reaction. Now what kind of, let's say, nuclear reactor is used? The energy was produced in the machine called as tokamak. This was very much in news as China also had implemented this kind of fusion reactor, tokamak, and it had created artificial sun with the help of that fusion reaction. So tokamak is the reactor or the machine used for fusion reaction. Okay, then deuterium and tritium, which are isotopes of hydrogen. Deuterium, tritium, So remember this. So hydrogen, deuterium, tritium, these are different 3 isotopes of hydrogen and are heated to the temperatures of 10 times hotter than the center of the sun to create the plasma. Now this is held in place using the superconductor electromagnets. As it spins around, fuses and releases tremendous energy as heat. This is the process of this fusion reaction or simply heat generation from that. Now this is going to boost the research under ITER. Now this is important for prelims examination. International Thermonuclear Energy Experiment Reactor. International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor ITER is a fusion research mega project supported by 7 countries. And India is member of that. Indian scientists participate in that experimental reactor. Okay, so China, European Union, India, Japan, South Korea, Russia, US, and is based in south of France. It seeks to further demonstrate scientific and technological feasibility of fusion energy. So remember this for prelims examination. International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, south of France. India is member among the 7 members. Okay. Now ISRO to launch new satellite. This is Earth Observation Satellite 404, EOS 04. 1170 kilogram in sun synchronous polar orbit. So we all learn about the basics here, geosynchronous and sun synchronous. Sun synchronous orbits are near to the earth. Polar orbit, basically suppose this is the earth. So these revolve around the earth in a polar orbit like this, and geosynchronous orbits are near equator like this. And the height of the geosynchronous orbit is very high, around 24,000 kilometers, while polar orbits are near earth orbit around 700 kilometers. Okay, this one is 529 kilometer. And this is launched through PSLV, Polar Satellites Launch Vehicle in India. Okay, and this geosynchronous satellites are launched through GSLV. So geosynchronous satellite or geostationary satellites launch vehicles. Okay, so this is the basic information. Now this EOS Earth Observation Satellite 04 is radar imaging satellite designed to provide high quality images under all weather conditions for applications. What are the applications? Agriculture, forestry and plantation, soil moisture and hydrology, flood mapping for the disaster management. So that means this is useful for resource survey and mapping and disaster management. Okay, so likewise you should understand. Generally polar satellites or sun synchronous satellites, earth observation satellites, they are used for this purpose because they swap larger areas within short amount of time. Okay, the mission will also carry 2 small satellites as co-passenger in that launch vehicle. One is student satellite InspireSat-1. InspireSat-1 from the Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, and the second will be the technology demonstrator satellite of ISRO, INS-2TD. Okay, so these will be the co-passengers on that EOS satellite launch vehicle PSLV 52, C52. This is for prelims examination. Okay, so on the basis of this, what should be answer to this question?
Option D.
Option D, D for Delhi.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, so yes, this is about Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. We have to find the correct statements. It provides benefit of 5,000 rupees in 3 installment to the women for her first living child upon meeting certain conditions. This is correct statement. Now where UPC can change this statement, this amount can be 6,000 written, और 3 installment के बदले वहाँ पे 2 installment it can be written, और first child के बदले first 2 children ऐसा भी लिखा जा सकता है. I am telling you the probabilities where you can get confused by let's say UPSC questions. Second, it is meant as a partial compensation for loss of wages during the pregnancy so that she can get the proper nutrition. This is correct statement. Again, it is for partial loss of wage or the compensation for that. It is only for those women who are not employed by the state or central government and public sector. So this is also correct. So here also government can, or let's say UPSC can confuse you. So there can be statement like it is only for government employees. Okay, so you should be aware this is not for government employees, rather it is for those working in unorganized sector. Okay, so that's why 1, 2, 3 statement are correct. Option D is correct here. Very good. Okay, fine. So these are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Any question? Okay then, let us stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.